First of all, I just want to say that it's awesome to be in Sweden and meet all of you guys. The SEO community seems to be growing a lot here, so super cool. I'm going to talk about acquisition in terms of search intelligence, and what we're going to go through today is how we looked into the UK market when Leovegas decided to enter it with leovegas.com, but also when we acquire properties. So this is something we do for all markets, but we're going to talk more about UK today. I'm going to show you some examples. Before I start, I just want to go back 12 years. Back then, I was running my own PPC agency together with Marcus, and he's actually here today. Where are you? And something that I started to struggle with after like 3 or 4 months was this CTR, the click-through rate. Because regardless of how well Marcus wrote the content or how much we increased the biddings, the campaigns that we were running never had a CTR of higher than like 8 or 9%. So this was something that we were struggling with, and we had one customer called Svanströmsel. We asked him if we could help him out with the web page. So myself, at least, I had studied a lot about SEO, so I knew that we need to write content, we need to create a URL structure. So we did it for him for free. He approved the site, and we sent it out to the world. And 2 months later, Håkan, he's a good friend of mine nowadays, called me on a Friday, screaming in the phone about the amount of customers that has been calling him that day. And I myself, I went into the AdWords account, I checked, nothing happened. So I said, yeah, but let's wait and see. And the same thing happened the day after. And on Sunday, I opened my computer and I searched for Plumber Stockholm. And obviously I had position number 1. So from that day, I knew that SEO is something that is extremely powerful. And if you manage to get position number 1, you can make a lot of money and also get a lot of customers. So how is this relevant to the topic that I'm going to speak about? Well, the higher up on the ladder that you climb, I work for a stock-listed company. We have investors, we have a board. It's very, very important to make wise decisions based on data. And I think everyone in this room agree that SEO isn't a one-man show. You need to have various type of stakeholders on board. So it's very important that even if you have this passion, like Håkan and myself, you need to transform that to a lot of people. When you work in the iGaming industry, the competition is extremely hard. Leovegas is a growth company, which means that we have as a target to enter 2 new markets per year. Which markets, we don't know. We need to look into the data. Another thing that is extremely important is to create synergies between departments. You have the content team, you have the tech team, you have the acquisition team, and the better they understand the data, it's easier to build bridges. And obviously SEO can never be an afterthought also. So that is extremely important. So, and this one also. When I started at Leovegas, Leovegas was a single page application built in JavaScript. We didn't attribute organic customers. We didn't work with Google Analytics. And when you have over 15,000 landing pages to sort of optimize, how do you know which one to target? So my presentation today is also going to be about the foundations when you work with the on-page part, because the data that we work with should obviously be reflected on the on-page as well. So let's look into the process. This is something that you can do manually. We scale this obviously, so we have various type of tools for this. Oh, sorry. So the first thing is keywords. We work with keywords, obviously. And what's important to have in mind here is that there is various type of keywords. I'm going to be talking about slot machines today. But in this industry, you have sportsbook, you have live casino, you have blackjack, you have roulette. But it's extremely important that you identify the keywords that you would like to rank on in an early stage. You can either grab them from Google Search Console. You can use Google Analytics. You can also do this manually. So by using a VPN and going into Leovegas or Google in Norway, you can identify the affiliate sites and what type of keywords that they have. Another important thing is the grouping, because otherwise you will skew the reports that I'm going to present. And this is about having sustainable keywords, because I can fill the data reports with thousands of keywords. I mean, sportsbook, playing sportsbook, but it's extremely important that you segment the keywords that you want to rank for, sustainable keywords. Then we have the most important part, which is when we scrape Google. We scrape Google desktop and mobile, and we take the top 30 results based on those keywords in order to get the share of voice report. Then we start to analyze it. So some of the key metrics that we look into, regardless if we're looking into acquire a new property, entering a new market, or just look into the competition in general. We have the search volume, obviously, which is the amount of searches. We have the future opportunity, because we want to identify keywords that is sustainable for the long term. In markets where you're allowed to do Google AdWords, Sweden isn't a market like that. We can work with something called organic score value. We have domain authority, which is the preferred metrics that I work with, and obviously also the technical SEO. And it can be anything from crawlability, you're going to be talking more about that later, to fetch time, to study content, etc. So this is the key recipe that we use for all our markets. This is an example of the UK market that we decided to scrape. You can see that the amount of searches in July 2017 were 1.4 million. And this is again only keywords that we find relevant and sustainable for us. Online casino is one of the most searched term during that period. So you have a lot of data here. So let's look deeper into slot games. Hands up, anyone who's been playing a slot game? We have a gaming innovation group there, that's why everyone is. Our customers love slot games. You have classic slots, you have progressive slots. Our founder once described a slot game as a stamp. They almost look the same when you look at them first, but when you're starting to look deeper into them, there is several things going on. We have the wild, the scatters, various type of keywords, again, kolikopellit in Finland, tragamonadas in Spain. This is a product that is super scalable for us. We can write the study content once, and I think we have roughly around 2,000 slot games available. So this is the vertical that we're going to look deeper into when we do the analyze. So this is an example of sustainable keywords, and this is the most important thing when you group the keywords and you scrape Google. Because if you add keywords here, such as casino bonus or free spins, that is obviously keywords that a lot of people are searching for, but that is not really the type of players that people like to attract. They tend to churn quite high, quite often. So we would like to have keywords that is sustainable and have a very high lifetime value. First thing. So the second thing we do is that we look into the search volume from a historic perspective. And what's interesting to see here is that the trends tells us that slot games and the various long tails has grown with over 250% per year. So this is definitely a vertical that's been growing a lot in the UK market. If we look into the future opportunity for this type of keywords, it will be around 250% in growth. So this tells us something about the opportunity and where the trends are going. Another thing that we do is that we gather the share of voice list, top 30, based on the keywords. And then we actually get all the sites that are performing based on these keywords. This is something that is extremely good for us in the SEO team because we can analyze the performance, the content, the technical stuff. It's also very good for our acquisition team because we can give the list to the acquisition guys and they can put, because we work a lot with affiliation, so we can get in touch with these sites and make sure that Leovegas has as high position as possible. So this is an overview of the best performing games. And again, this is extremely valuable for us. So just to summarize the market, and again, we do this for everything. So this is just one example of how we do in the UK. And this is also a very good example of how we can measure our share of voice when we present it to the board or to the CMO. So it's not only about identifying opportunities, it's about presenting performance. Synergies with other departments, like I was mentioning. If we have a site in the top 30 list that are ranking, they are obviously doing something good and they have valuable traffic, so we should definitely have presence there. You have the technical part, such how they've been writing content. So there is a lot of synergies here, and also for the BI team. So if you start by presenting this every time you look into a market, you create awareness. Another thing that is extremely interesting is that we can do the same thing but by looking into the whois information. So when we investigated the UK market, we were looking for opportunities or sites to acquire. And something that you can see here is that there is one company who actually has 18 sites with a share of voice of around 20%. And some of you guys who are from UK today, when we were looking into this, we thought that like 888, William Hill, Ladbrokes, like the really big guys were the ones that were most successful. But in this case, we can see that there is a tiny, tiny company based in Newcastle that actually are master or owning the search results. If we take the share of voice based on domain authority, the same pattern goes here. We have 4 sites here that stands for roughly around 18% of the share of voice. But if you look into their domain authority, it's less than 40. So this is also a metric that you can work with a lot. You can reach out for sponsorships. You can increase their link portfolio. And again, super, super interesting. So to summarize the market, it has grown with roughly 200%. It will continue to grow to around 250%. Most of our competitors are focusing on sportsbook and they are lacking on-page. RocketX, which is the property owner, which I just showed you, has a share of voice of 18% in this market. And obviously, I'm simplifying the whole acquisition process here. But earlier this year, we communicated to the market that we acquired RocketX and all their 18 properties for 68 million pounds. And when you work in Sweden and you're a stock-listed company, the market or the stock market would like to see sustainable growth, and sustainable growth comes from markets such as UK. So in the latest report, we had an NGR, which is the net gaming revenue, of 28% for the UK market. You can also see the returning customer base based on the properties that we were acquiring. So this is one example of how we work when we look into new markets and also acquiring properties. Also, when we went live with server-side rendering, based on the data that we had from the reports, we could identify specific games that actually are performing well and has a lot of searches. So when we went live, we knew exactly what games to target in terms of creating the content and also building referral links. And this is the result from the UK market. So in less than 3 months, we managed to get over 900 NDCs, which is new depositing customers. You have the first deposit value there, stated there as well, 47,000. The lifetime value of a customer playing casino games is roughly 450 euro. So when you have all those metrics presented for you, you have the search volumes and the competition, it's super easy to make decisions like this based on the data. And last but not least, you remember Svanström, the plumber. He's been kicking ass as well since then. Okay, thank you.